everybody, and welcome to the Don't Be Mad podcast. I would say your weekly dose, but this is a different week than usual for a lot of us.
Most definitely.
It's a bit more of a somber,
reflective,
very reflective, very. A lot of us are asking questions that can't get answered, or in some case can, and we just don't like the answers. But overall, we're still here, man. I'm your boy Matthew, aka Lefty Lucky. I'm here as always with
Jamali
and Jason.
I mean, I guess you could figure why we are the way we are right now. We lost somebody in the community, in the world that did great things, was a great person, a great influence, a great motivator to a lot of people. Nipsey Hussle.
Yup.
Rest in peace. Rest in paradise. Rest in power. Such an unfortunate event.
Most
say the
definitely.
least.
Yeah.
To say the least. Such an unfortunate event. I mean, you know, I like to start off by asking how your week has gone, how's mental health, but I feel like we're all on the same page with this.
Definitely.
I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, that's how messed up the situation is, right?
Yo, bro, honestly, like I said before the mic turned on, like, I just dread.
Yeah.
I just dread this whole thing that we're gonna have to do now, but it got to get done. I think it's a coping mechanism, I guess, is a good way to just get it out there, get it off.
Good to talk about it, get to flesh out the thoughts that are, like, stuck in our head. And, like, one of the things that, not that I'm happy about, but it happened at a time where we had an opportunity to really just digest it.
Yeah.
You know, like, it could have happened before we recorded last week's episode, or during we recorded, you know? But, like, I remember I was at home watching the Duke game and just seeing it on the timeline that, you know, announcement like Nipsey got shot. And, like, I just thought it was, like, some bullshit, you know? Like, oh, these fucking people trying to talk shit, you know? Like, another fake death type of situation going on. So, I didn't even pay it no mind. Like, I just basically kept scrolling, turned my phone off. I'm watching the game. Like, I didn't give a fuck. I'm like, yo, Duke's on. You guys are bullshitting. Like, fuck out of here. But then, like, I noticed, like, in my group chat, like, the numbers were just going up. Like, you just see that red dot, and it's just, like, the numbers are going. What the fuck's going on? Like, no, and, like, I'm still thinking, like, yo, this is bullshit, like, whatever. And when I jump in the group chat and I see people are like, yo, there's, like, video, you know, there's, like, a picture of him with his daughter, and then, like, the next video, it's, like, the same clothes and all shit. I'm like, nah, fuck out of here. Like, I watched it, but I'm like, yo, why would anybody even film this shit? Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, the whole time, like, it really just, like, completely fucked up my mood. Completely.
I was literally on a phone call, and I have this bad habit when I'm in the house. You know, I have my conversation going on speaker. I'm going through Instagram. I'm going through Facebook. Yeah. And I remember, you know, having this conversation, and we're talking about, because I'm working with this guy with some things that he's trying to sort out. So I was trying to go through a couple ideas with him and so forth. And I remember just switching on Facebook, and then, no, I was on Instagram, and I go through, I go through the stories, and I just clicked on it just because I wanted to see what was popping, and I see a picture of Nipsey Hussle, and it says, "Fight, nigga, fight," and I was like, people post some dumb shit. It makes no sense. I'm completely oblivious to the fact that he even got shot, right?
Yeah, you don't even know.
So I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go on Facebook, and the first thing I see is Harmony's post about, you know, him getting shot. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's what they meant, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, something stupid happened. He got hit in the leg.
Yeah.
And then, like, 3 posts later, it was like, R.I.P. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
My whole conversation with that dude, like, because we work together, and he was like, are you okay, bro? And I was like, nah, this is not happening. He's like, what's wrong? I'm like, this is not happening. This is not happening. No. This can't be true. And the more I scroll is the more I'm seeing. And I'm like, nah. I'm like, yo, bro, I got to call you back. I turn off the phone. Obviously, I start, going through all the news and shit. And I see it. And I was like, nah, this is not true. Like, I'm thinking it's April Fool's and someone just want to be dumb.
And that's what was so, because it's like, it happened on March 31st.
Right. In the evening for us.
In the evening. So it's like, it's not technically April Fool's, but it's like, you never know,
people
right?
People be wilding sometimes.
The things we've seen people do for clout on the internet.
Yeah.
Like you essentially, you're so skeptical about everything you see.
Right.
Which is why, like, when I saw the first post of, Nipsey got shot, and like that video that you don't clearly see Nipsey. Right. But you see like the shirt and the shorts. I'm like, fuck out of here. Like that's bullshit. Like it's a movie set or some shit.
Yeah.
Like literally, I'm complete full denial because I don't see Nipsey.
Right.
But yeah, it's like you keep scrolling as my group chat was going nuts, and like a couple of people hit me up like, "Yo, you heard the shit that happened to Nipsey?" Because like I've been like huge on Nipsey, like yourself included.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like people being like, "Yo, is it true? Like, what have you heard? What is going on?" Like I saw this shit on Facebook or I saw this shit on Instagram. And it's like, yo, honestly, like, I know as much as you do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, I wish I didn't know as much as you did, because I'm just like, I want some type of confirmation.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm just like, yo, if he actually did get shot, like, let's just hope. Like, the only thing I had wrote on Twitter at that time was, all I want to hear is he's in the hospital stable.
Right.
That's it. Like, if it is true, that's all I want to hear. And at that point, I was like, I put my phone down. I'm like, yo, I don't even want to look. I'm going to hold out. I'm going to wait. And then one of my friends texts me and he's like, yo, like, he's dead. And like, it was the only one that went through, because like I literally put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because I was just hearing like the pings and all that shit. And like when you do it, you have like the emergency list. So it was somebody that was that close to me for them to be like, yo, like legit. And I was just heartbroken all night, man. Like I couldn't even enjoy the rest of the Duke game.
Bro,
like I was
literally
so fucking
shut down. Man. Like I just sat, like I live alone, so I was just sitting on my couch, just pondering life, bro. I was like, nah, this can't be Nipsey. Like maybe it's some stupid shit, and I'm hoping. And like even though I'm seeing like ABC, I see the Breakfast Club. I'm seeing Hot 97, and I'm just like, maybe these guys are, I don't know.
Fuck, bro.
And then it was really when I once I start seeing videos, and I saw that video, and I was like, yo, that's Nip's story though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm like, I remember watching him doing a documentary. I think it was before the Marathon mixtape came out, and it was just him like going around the hood. He was like, yo, this is the parking lot. I did all my, I sold drugs here. I sold my mixtape here. And, that we used to be chased out of the parking lot. And now, like, my cooling store is going to be open up. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is looking for real. And I started seeing people. And it was just like, once I saw someone live, because I don't know if you guys saw the video. Some dude.
So many of them. Man.
Yeah, he was live. And I'm like, yo, this is really for real.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, nah. And because, like, I follow him, like, real deep. So it was just not. It wasn't like I'm just a fan of his music. I'm a fan of what he was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And what he was preaching.
And that's the crazy thing, because I know a lot of people who didn't listen to his music, but they knew what he was doing, like his philanthropy work. Like that's how they knew who he was. And because of that, like that's how it affected them so hard, because they're like, yo, they knew all the things he was trying to do. They knew all the bridges he was building as far as making sure people, especially the next generation, had greater opportunity going forward, you know? And for them, it was like that pain of like, yo, I didn't listen to him, but like I knew him for being somebody that was positive in the community. And that in itself was why a lot of people were just so hurt. I mean, when you got from the Bloods, the Crips, the Essays, like you had damn near every single gang in New York plus the LAPD.
Yeah.
In just complete, total shock and disbelief. That says a lot about your character, especially in that type of environment.
Right.
Ugh.
Well, let me interject in this.
Yeah, go ahead, because I mean we can.
Yeah, I'll let you guys talk because you guys are more fans than I am of Nipsey. Because I've never really listened to his music or anything like that. I knew who he was. I knew what he did in the community and everything like that. Very admirable, and it's interesting seeing it from the outside, from people who have that perspective. They're essentially, he's like a hero, a folk hero for a lot of people, and for him to go out the way that he did, it's terrible because I see it in you guys, how you feel. You guys listen to his music all the time. You guys speak about him all the time, like, because he's independent, did stuff his own way.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I find. If you could make your own way, and still be successful, I think that's one of the best things you can do. And I think he was an example to a lot of artists, especially, that you don't need a big label behind you to actually make it. Not only did he make it in music, but he made it in business.
Yeah.
He made it in his philanthropic work, and not a lot of backing, and he still made it work. And I think it's a moment to look at these are the type of people that you should these are the type of people you should back in life.
Yeah, you should protect them.
These are the type of people
these are the ones you protect, you champion, and you promote.
Yeah, you promote these because they're the one that's helping the local business. They're the one that's helping their, putting their time, blood, sweat, and tears. They're actually physically there. Hopefully we'll get into a little bit more conversation where we can explain that. I have a little we
definitely will.
We'll get into that into a little differently, but I think he was one of the actual good people because I've seen clips on Twitter of him when he was younger, like back in the early 90s, talking about, I don't want to just sell records. I want to invest in real estate.
Yeah, that's the one thing that stood out about him, for myself, I remember the very first time I heard a song from him was back when I was going through the Nah Right blogs, and he was on a feature on Game's song, and hearing him there, and I was like, yo, I like this dude's flow, he's got a good sound, and I dove a bit deeper, and then I noticed that first track came out, but he still had a few interviews out there because he was in LA, at least, with LA Leakers and all those guys. He was blowing up. And in all those interviews, he always preached about, as much as he was in that gang life, what they were about was making sure everything that they did was good for the community.
His type of gang mentality was not gang banging. No,
and that's exactly it. Was more it was the fundamentals of which the Crips were
discipline.
Yeah, it's true discipline. We don't do it criminally. We do it fundamentally. We do it through making sure our community is being propped up. We invest in ourselves. We push each other forward, and we make sure that everything that we get, we give back. And it's apparent, like I said, from day one, from the very first interviews he did all the way through to the person he was up to the day he died, everything was about making sure the community, the people in the community were safe, were making money, were in a situation where they felt that if they ever needed anything, they could get it.
Well, yeah, to me, from what I'm seeing from people, he seems like a modern day Robin Hood of sorts, you can say. Of Los Angeles, I wouldn't say he's stealing from the rich and giving to the poor.
Yeah, because I can't even say I'm saying with Robin his ability. Hood. It was more of he was just himself.
Yep.
There aren't many people you can compare him to because there aren't that many examples of a guy like him. Because we know people who will do amazing philanthropy, but it's mostly in writing a check and handing it in. But he was very much I'm gonna put my hands in the dirt and work. The businesses that he started, he made sure they were run properly. He made sure the people that were there were doing their job. He made sure if they ever needed anything, he could either get somebody who can help them do it, which would promote their business, or if he couldn't, then he would put his own into it to make sure that they never wanted for anything. And the fact that he was very much hands-on is why you look at everyone from children in elementary, high school, coming up in that community, all the way to the OGs and the elders who looked at him and were like, No, this is a guy, like, this is a stand-up man. Like, we talk about kings all the time. Like, he was moving like a king.
Normally, in a community where you grew up, if you see that you're someone that's doing something positive, something to build up the community, no one's supposed to fuck with you. And that's normally what it's supposed to be. If you're being positivity, not to just one group of people, but everyone, no one should bother you or should give you any hassle. It could be police, it could be to people you have a disagreement with. No one in any case should be doing this stuff. And I think that our generation, and I can kind of say he's our age.
Yes, he's our age.
Yeah, he was 33.
Yeah, he's our age. So I could say our generation, depending where you grew up. This is highly dependent. I don't know where he grew up in the Los Angeles area, but our kind of demographic, our age group, and we didn't grow up, I wouldn't say like the most disciplined. I think we're more liberal in stuff than how we do. I don't know how it is in LA because I've never been there. I don't know, but I know growing up in the '80s in LA, you sort of
we had a lot of leeway.
We had a lot. Yeah, that's it. That's the
like,
language I want to say.
We were allowed to really go out there and figure things out on our own, learn lessons both the easy and hard way, and anything in between. We were taught it from the people ahead of us, you know. And to reflect that in Nipsey, I feel like he had that type of same network around him of family and friends who they laid out a path for him, and they showed him a way which he was able to then instill in his own lifestyle and his own being, that you see is reflective in the way that there's such an outpour of love. You know, like not to like contrast it as a comparison, but when Mac Miller passed, we all felt that because of who we knew Mac Miller was in the music world.
Right.
Like, he was always somebody that everybody who worked with him, everybody who knew him personally, had positive things to say about him.
Right.
And we all knew about his substance abuse demons. Everyone knew about it, but that never took away from the character that was Mac Miller.
Right.
So looking at Nipsey Hussle, and you're seeing an overwhelming, like almost close to that, but in a sense where it's like people that you wouldn't expect.
Well, you see, the thing with Nipsey versus, I think, like any recent celebrity, rappers, athletes, anybody that people look up to really had any type of, influence on us. I think the thing with Nipsey that makes him stand out is the impact he had.
Yeah.
He did things that impact not just himself, not just his rap career, but it impacted others more so than himself. Well, like he started programs like, Vector 90.
Yeah, Vector 90.
Vector 90. This is a program for inner city kids to learn how to code. He had an incubator. You know what I mean? He was doing things with the resources he have that people with bigger resources that we look up to couldn't even crack close to what he was doing.
This is what I actually wanted to bring up, because what you just said there, Jamal, I just want to bring we can go into segue into what I want to speak to.
Right.
In terms of that, when Matt said that in our generation we grew up with a lot of leeway, I think in our generation we have the highest potential, but we also have the lowest. Like, we can hit rock bottom as quickly. Like, our generation is a generation of Facebook, Google, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
We can create all this kind of great stuff, iRobot, carpet, machines, all that shit.
Right.
But we also have some bullshit in our age as well, when it comes to like terrorist bombers and shit like that.
Well, I think our generation more so than anything else, I think we're the most insecure generation there is. And we worry so much about how we appear to others, how others think about us, and so forth. And I think
I would argue with that. I would say that
we're the fearful generation.
I think that's the generation ahead of us, like, who are
fearful?
Just, I would say the generation that's probably like entering their 20s to 26, 27.
No, I think there's people our age who are highly insecure.
There's some our age for sure.
Definitely.
There's some our age.
I don't think that's generational. Well, I just think in general.
No, but I think in what ties in what Jason's saying. I think it kind of being amplified with the existence of what we've created in like the Facebook and the social platforms. Like people are fearful, whereas like years before, if I had an idea and I wanted to clean windows and start a company, I wouldn't think twice. I'll do it. Yeah. Now people don't want to do that because they don't want to be shunned or people be ridiculed.
Yeah, they'd rather go on Instagram or Twitter and be Instagram famous, Twitter famous, because it's the same thing like when we went to school and people said, you should go to university, go to CJEP, get an education, when we should have actually gone and get a trade. Work for yourself, build your own business.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of schools, a lot of the system, they don't teach you how to do this stuff.
But again, it's not. It's a shame. I agree with you at the school, but I think a lot of us is the fear. We're fearful of failure because their failures, unlike other generation, is seen by everybody.
But the thing is, with our failure is more impactful. So, for example, in let's say 20 years removed of us, people who failed before us, they had the opportunity to fail. Us, I think if we failed at something that we want to do, we could lose a house, we could lose our livelihood, we could lose relationships, we could lose all that stuff. I think that's what people.
But I think in the contrary, I think our generation have way less to lose compared to other generations, because at least in our generations, we have multitude of opportunities to be self-generating this type of resourceful. I mean, like when someone failed back then, it was like, I had my business for 10 years. Now I'm going to go work at the local factory. Now we have the ability to start over. I at least that's what my impression is on our generation.
I don't know. I think for us that if we fail at something that we want to do too, not me or you or Matt or anything perspective, I think if other people do it and they fail, they get so discouraged at their failure is that they put, like they said, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, because they're worried about how other people think about them or people look at them and their failures.
And that's what I find admirable about Nipsey is that he had struggles and stuff like that, but that didn't stop his grind. He kept on doing it and kept on doing it. And like I said, I never listened to any of his music. I'm not a Nipsey fan because I've never listened to music, but I admire what he did in terms of his business and what he was trying to do for his community, and that's always admirable to anyone like that, even if you don't know the person.
Right. I mean, as big as people look at these guys because he rapped the Rolling 60s. We know this. Yeah. And he's literally. I've watched interviews where he repeatedly said, "I really wanted to be somebody," and for I think was close to a year, he was shining shoes, and he took pride in what he was doing. And if you think about it, like he's not far removed from our age. He was shining shoes in like 95, 96. Yeah. You know what I mean? 97. You know what I mean? When most people at that time really we're getting to the era where it was about being fly and having the nice jewelry. And you could imagine gang culture back then in California at that point. It's Tupac just got murdered. Biggie just died. So, violence is on the highest point. You know what I mean?
Tension was high. Tension was high.
So for him to even, say that, and I mean, a lot of people are ashamed of their first jobs, especially when they reach certain plateau. They will never be like, oh yeah, I used to, waiter at Red Lobster. You know what I mean? They would never say that. They'd be like, nah, bro, I never had a job.
It's a part of your journey, man.
Right, because you hear a lot of these guys, especially from the gang culture rappers, they'll tell you, I never had a job. All I did was hustle. You know what I mean? Yeah. But, for him to, like, he was really a true and honest person. And, like, it's hurtful because it's like, he's probably the only person that I could think of our generation where his words and actions actually lines up. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he said,
such a rare thing to see. Right. Like somebody who literally preaches a certain way has so much evidence that this is exactly what they're doing.
Right.
And I would say, add to that there's another person who is like that, doesn't rap, but he plays basketball. And as much as I don't like him, I'm not like him, but I don't think he's great. I'll give 100% props to LeBron for that. Because that's what LeBron does all the time.
Melo's up there too. Melo,
we put a mark on that just for future reference.
Kobe's still the best though.
No, but Melo does this.
No,
Melo does this in his native country of Puerto Rico.
Yeah. But you get what I mean, though.
Right,
like LeBron would.
You put your money where your mouth is.
He puts exactly. And people are always going to remember you for that thing. So whatever criticism they may have about you or whatever, people are going to remember, oh, he did this for me. I can do this for other people. And that's how you essentially spread the wealth.
Yeah.
It could be knowledge, it could be money, whatever. You're spreading the wealth.
Well, I mean, like, and bringing it back to that, the idea of legacy, like, that's one thing that Nipsey preached heavily with the marathon mentality is he can put out the best rap songs there are, and that can be his legacy.
Right.
But if he doesn't have something that goes beyond that and something that is tangible that people can really reach out to, not just for inspiration, but as something that helped them get forward outside of just what he's doing personally, what legacy is he actually setting up?
Well, look at it. Look at us, our conversation that we're having right now. We didn't even talk about any of his songs. We just talked about the person and what he did in the community. We didn't even touch upon his songs yet.
Well, for me, because I look at him more so, he's more than just a rapper. To me, a rapper is like the fifth thing he is, the fifth greatest thing.
I think when I want to say year 4, year 5 of him being a rapper is when we really saw what his mentality that he brought to us in those early interviews was becoming, you know? And it was small things. Like, I remember when he had put out Crenshaw. And he was selling, like, Proud to Pay. And people were like, $100 for mixtape. I'll know about that. But you literally had people who were proud to pay because on the back end of people paying that, they were given so much for it. It wasn't like you're literally going to get this mixtape for $100 and that's it. Like, it wasn't a greed thing. It was, no, the money that you're giving me is actually going back to the community. And
you get a free show.
Yeah, you got a free show. You got merchandise. You got... I think there was like signed things, and on top of that, like he even said, like a portion of it would be donated to these specific things. So when people actually dove a bit deeper than just seeing the $100 price mark, they realized, no, like this is actually for a good cause. Like this is actually worth it. And then when Mailbox Money came out, he was saying $1,000, but that $1,000 wasn't just for the music. It was this is for the community. Like it's going to a good place.
I think that for him it's more that the things that he was actually doing, in regardless could be rap or anything, you actually saw it go back into the community.
Oh, definitely.
The music was always secondary to him. And that's something that I feel people didn't realize until maybe 2-3 years ago. When all like the big plans that he had for
start to come to fruition.
Crenshaw and Slauson in South Central, like when all those plans were really starting to grow, when you realize he was trying to get low income housing apartments built for people in that neighborhood, that's when we're like, yo, like that all started because of these things he was doing musically that he told us about. You know, like the shows where he would literally go out there. I remember I was listening to, I think it was Flagrant 2, where Kaz was talking about how Nipsey would come out and literally perform for free. And the only thing he would ask is that people donate to like certain charities or certain organizations that he had. Like, he's not even charging that party to pay him, but he would go out there and just throw his philanthropy at them like, yo, I'm not telling you guys I'm doing this for free, but do this and support the movement that we have going on. And people actually did because they knew who he was.
But, okay, I'm not sure if you guys are... No, because I want to segue into something else in regards to Nipsey. What you're saying from like his philanthropic work and everything like that. Because this is something I saw on Twitter. Like, there's a lot of stars, big-time superstars, label known like from Jay-Z, Beyonce, all these big label people saying to, oh, Nipsey, you a real one. He was a real one. This, R.I.P., R.I.P. And there was this guy on Twitter that said, no, fuck that shit. You guys are in his level or higher.
I know which guy you're talking about.
I'm sure you saw it.
Yeah,
I seen it.
He said, you guys are in his level or higher, and you guys are not even doing at least half of what he's doing.
I remember that.
And I'm like, that is
and like,
some
in
real
some
shit.
Cases... of artists that are big.
I'm not saying all. Some.
No, and that's not. That's why I'm prefacing with in some cases. There were a few that I know I'd say like Future being one of the standouts of being like, yeah, you know, that's why I do it. It's like, no, you
fuck
don't.
out of here, bro.
Like, what a time to not shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah.
But, you know, like you look at somebody like Jay-Z who, when Crenshaw came out, he bought 100 copies. Right. And then with Mailbox Money, I don't remember how much, but I know he did buy a bunch of those copies as well because he knew what Nipsey was doing. There are a lot of artists that are not as 10 toes down as Nipsey, but still do a lot. I mean, we've already spoken about what Meek Mill's been doing. We've spoken about Rihanna's been doing. We've talked about Jay-Z. We've spoken about a lot of artists who are literally putting their money where their mouth is and doing great things either for the American community or their native countries. You know?
I agree with what you're saying, but I would say that these artists that you mentioned, as much as
they're the exceptions.
Even they're the exceptions too. They do it. I'm not saying that they don't.
They don't do it like he did.
I'm just saying that they should be more vocal in what they're doing, so a lot more people with their platform can see that they're doing it.
Because, you know,
that's what always bugged me.
I've had many conversations about that as well, where we know, or sometimes we don't know what an artist is doing and how it's affecting communities. And I can understand on the one hand, like an artist just wants to help and doesn't want all like the media attention of it, because a lot of times, let's say someone will donate $1 million, $2 million, and they're like, oh, they just want a tax write-off. You know, like it's immediately shunned. So sometimes it's good to, if you know the type of media attention you're gonna get, just do the donations, put the people in position and allow them to get the praise while you sit back and it's like, I did that. That's it. That's all. Like, which is something that Jay-Z's done a lot.
But I think,
one second. But one thing I would say though, there's a difference between what you're comparing, and I agree with what you're saying, because there's a lot of people out there who should and could do better, but they don't. But the thing is that Nipsey literally never left that community. So as he got big, the community got better with him there. So like with Jay-Z, for example, most of the time he's out in Beverly Hills. That's where he resides with his family. Yeah. Diddy the same way. You know, most of these guys move outside of their community. And, you know, this is a part I was really want to touch on, because I saw a video with Noriega. Nori, as we know him.
Yeah, Nori now.
And he was saying something, and I thought about that. And I was like, you know, for years, you know, people always thought, well, you got rich and you switched up and you moved out. And I was saying, like, what if Nipsey did that? Would he still not be alive right now? Because he would have probably been a Sunday afternoon somewhere in Malibu, somewhere chilling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those things where, coming back to like donation and people being involved in community, we come from an environment which is sad, but we're willing to kill somebody out of jealousy. No. And it's out of senseless things. So it's hard for a lot of people to really go and be hands-on, right, when they don't have the support. Like, Nipsey was good. Like, no one was going to touch him. You know, he was affiliated with the people who ran that area. So he was good. So it afforded him the luxury of staying there and really be impactful. And so when you have people like you see Trick Daddy does this. For years, Trick Daddy been having Trick love the kids. You know what I mean? Like, people do a lot of things. Like, LeBron is impactful again. And another thing, too, that makes them both impactful is because they have the same mindset. And it's a good comparison that you made, because LeBron took his 5 best friends and he literally put them in position in his business structure where they're able to live their dream, and together they're able to accomplish a lot. Nipsey did the same thing. Yeah. And you know what I mean?
So look, and I want to layer on top of that, because I remember when this all happened, a lot of people jumped straight to his Twitter and they were like trying to figure out what his last tweet meant.
Right.
Having strong enemies is a blessing.
Right.
And I was one of those people too who was like, why would he tweet something like that? And then literally a couple hours later, he passes. But it came to pass that the reason he had tweeted is because he had literally just met up with a rival gang, like blood member, who was like one of the top members, and they essentially came to a piece where they're like, yo, our people and your people, we're going to work together. We're going to make sure this community stays safe. And there was literally like pictures of them together, like where they sat down at the table, like videos and everything. Because they were like, yo, like they need to see that we can do this, that we can come together as a community, and like, regardless of if you're on the rival side, we can make this work.
Right.
So in that understanding of someone like Nipsey, who, you know, had the nickname Neighborhood Nip, it's not like there's purpose and reason for why he was still there and why he was always working. Because if you take him out of there, the influence, the strength that he has, the visibility of people understanding that you can overcome, like he's rolling 60s, like we know, or even if you don't know what that means, in LA, people from rolling 60s don't get to where Nipsey is.
People from any gang don't get from
and usually the ones that did left, took their people with them and didn't turn back.
Right.
Whereas he wanted to make sure that the kids that were there noticed, like, this is what us in this clique are supposed to do. And I know people have their reservation of he should have never stayed in the hood. Once he got his money, he should have left. And I mean, there's going to be 1,001 opinions on that.
Right.
But when you see what his passing has done as far as the outcry of pain, him being there meant so much more than if he had literally just said, I'm just going to write checks and leave it at that.
Right.
I think that's where I guess, well, myself, I kind of sort of disagree. I agree with most of what you're saying, but I sort of disagree. Like, I don't think you necessarily have to be in the hood to prop up the hood. It's good that you're there because people see you, they can interact with you, they can talk with you. But I don't think you need to be there all the time. Like how LeBron does it. LeBron's not in the hood all the time, not in Cleveland all the time.
Yeah, but two different career paths. Though.
I don't think he has a choice in not being there.
No, but what I'm saying is that a lot of these, like, as much as your hood is safe, you think you're good in your hood, you need to have a sort of security with you. And I remember this is always the funniest thing I've listened to a comedian said. He says he grew up in the housing projects in Chicago. One time, he just went by himself thinking like, oh, I'm from here. I'm from Southside Chicago. No one's going to mess with me because they know me. He said it was the biggest mistake of his life. He said, these people nowadays, regardless of the people you grew up with in the past and you see them now, you don't know who they are. They completely change. So you don't know how to react. So one person can come up to you asking for money like, yo, do you have $500? I used to help you out when you were a kid. And like, I don't have this money. You don't want to give it to him. He might start to shake you down because he has nothing to. No, I'm not joking though. It's serious.
No, I get what you're saying, but here's the difference between that situation and Nipsey's. This is a guy who got famous, was gone for a while, and came back, whereas Nipsey never left.
Just to touch on what you said about security, let's be clear. Nipsey was a person who had security.
Yeah,
he knew the dangers. Too. The only reason he was there without the main bodyguard is because his friend served some time in prison who just came home, went by the store. He got a phone call, I guess, because his brother works there. His dad's the manager, one of his other boys is the manager of the store. They must have hit Nip up. If you saw the picture,
he was
in
going
basketball
there to
shorts.
meet up with him.
Yeah, he went there
and make sure he got some clothes and
all of that.
Set up.
You see, this is the problem too, because I remember Charlie Murphy when he did security. He was head of security for Eddie Murphy when he was doing all this stuff. Right. And they said that was the worst thing you can do. He said they told Eddie Murphy, you need to hire professionals like us. But
Nipsey had security. His brother's not of the store. His brother's not his head of security or his dad. Oh, he has security.
But what I'm saying is like you need, but regardless, you need security that you hire from an agency that actually physically trains, because when Charlie Murphy used to do the security for Eddie Murphy, he used to beat up a lot of people. And they used to tell him, dude, you cannot do this. They told Eddie Murphy, your brother's too extreme. He has to back off from this because you don't know how people are going to be. You can't have people be your security. You need to have them external.
No, he had his own person. His security is not necessarily his people, like, from the streets. His security, like, from what I read and what research has provided me, the information, is that he really does have a serious security team.
It's
good just
then.
That it was an in and out type of situation. And from even
then, man.
Furthermore, like when more I read into what happened, is that this guy, Eric Holder, was sitting outside waiting for Nipsey to come outside. So if you notice, Nipsey was, I don't know if you saw the video.
I didn't see it.
But it looked like they were walking towards a car, not realizing he was in a vehicle nearby. And then he got out and walked over towards them. And that's when he opened fire.
You see?
Right? So it's like, it's one of those things where, you know, it's like, it's hard to digest, you know, because like, there's a deeper part to this conversation we'll get into later. But it's just like, these people need to be protected. Like, I know Nip was comfortable in his neighborhood. I agree with you. There's a level between being comfortable and being secure.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you're from that neighborhood. Yes, you're cool with most people, and if not all people, you're doing great. But you have to be mindful. There's somebody out there that is envious, that don't value what you're doing, that may see you and say, oh, well, I should have been there too. You know what I mean? And they don't understand the struggles that he goes through on a daily basis or whatever it is. And, you know, for them, taking him out is not a big deal. And, you know, we've seen this time and time again. Nipsey is just a famous person this happened to. This happened to people we don't even probably know their names, but this guy was, you know, after school program director. He coached a local little league team or whatever, which is still impactful to the community. But off being, you know, somebody saying something or him doing something, he ended up dead. Nips is just a popular one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Nipseys out there. You know, I'm just saying, like, he just had a wider platform and a deeper impact on everybody, you know, that really came to get to know what him and what he was about.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, and I'm not saying that, you know, he should, like, can't be afraid to go out anywhere, even where you live. You can't be afraid. However, I think that when you reach a certain level or degree of notoriety or famousness, especially if you're in public,
right,
you need to be mindful of where you are, who you're with, because we always hear it that I was driving and my boy had a DUI, he had a cocaine charge or something while I was driving, and you get caught up in it. We always hear stuff like that, and I'm not saying Nipsey didn't know what his alleged friend didn't have or what he had on him or anything like that, but if you know this person had a problem or had problem with you or any minor thing like that, when you have security, you tell your security, listen, this person has this, and this. It could be anything little. He has a marijuana charge. Security is gonna know, okay, he may have marijuana charge on him. Let's check him to make sure that if he comes around here, we know he has nothing, he can come in.
Right.
That's the thing is, like, I'm not saying just because you have security and he's your friend that, oh, he doesn't trust you. I'm just saying that it's better to be safe than sorry. And I'm not saying it's Nipsey's fault.
Right.
Because it's not his fault. Who could predict any shit like that? No one could predict that.
Well, I mean, let's touch on this now because I think that's where we're going. So it turns out that the Nipsey's killer was, well, an affiliate, a longtime friend. Well, I won't say friend. I'm not going to put that far. They knew each other.
They knew each other.
They knew each other.
They grew up with each other.
We read each other. The problem with what I have is that there's not really much you can do when it comes to certain situation in regards to how your relationship turns out as you grow, right? You can't control it. Yeah. Some people are going to go left. Some people are going to go right. Some people are going to get left behind. Some people are going to get ahead. What I would say, however, having looked into it, it appears that this individual was part of the gang culture as well and broke code. And the code of silence is what he broke. Apparently, he was an informant. He worked with police. He snitched. He gave up information. Nip, being true to the values which he was raised on and believes in, was like, bro, you can't come around here. You know what I mean? Nip at that point literally owned the whole block. You know what I mean? The whole shopping center.
But that's what I mean now. That's when you should tell your security.
But hold on.
That's
but so him saying don't come around here, it shouldn't be surprising to that guy because that's how it works in those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You work with you're an informant, you're no longer part of the community, you're excluded.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever altercation happened, one could only believe it happened, and Nip was like, you know what, this is getting hot, I'm leaving. And you could tell, like, because where this happened, he was leaving. I don't think he was even mindful that the guy was there until he started shooting. And Nip, being the size he is, very tall, was, like, from what I see, like, split seconds, Nip was already on the floor.
Yeah, I didn't even watch the video. I couldn't do it.
So, you know, all I'm saying is, to say this is that, yes, Eric Holder did something ridiculous that I would never be able to wrap my head around. Nip should have people around him to protect him from this type of shit happening.
Enough friends, huh? Like,
right. I agree with you.
Professionals that handle that shit.
I agree with you, but in this situation, the more I look into it, you know, I'm seeing things like, you know, this guy, Eric Holder, since 2012, 13, has been going into mental asylum. First, he got knocked with a gun charge, did some time, like couple, like, they were saying like 3 months, which is kind of light. So that's probably where the snitching part came in, because that's not normal for a gun charge.
Supposed to be in for years and came out way earlier than
LA
he should have.
So they won't keep you in the jail. They'll get that cleared up quick because it's overpopulation. They won't keep you in jail.
I mean, bro,
it could be that though. You're right.
I've seen maybe Nipsey do have access to information that he did snitch, right? We don't know.
But again, that goes back to the security thing. They should be well informed of that stuff.
Right. But the case in point is, when you're from that culture, I feel like it's a understanding like, yo, dude told you not to come around, stay away, and keep it moving. And so I guess he keep coming back, and I don't know what drawed him to the store at this point. And the altercation happened. Nip looked like he was leaving. This guy looked like he was just there lurking, waiting for the opportunity, knowing that he probably would be like, oh, well, normally this guy normally have a lot of security. Today he doesn't. So now if I really want to do something, it's today. But regardless of the fact, because what I read that he was, you know, and heard that he was in and out of mental asylum since then, it really made me reflect on how, you know, we talk about it all the time about mental health and people being mindful of this. It is important for us to not just make him another lost soul in the system. You know, yes, I mean, I've even heard his family saying, you know, he needs to pay for what he's done, because what he's done is damaging and they don't support none of what he's doing.
He doesn't need to pay with his life, though.
No, that's not. What is that going to do? It's not going to. Nipsey's not going to come back if he dies. You know what I mean?
Like you, like I've had these conversations with you and Jason in private, where I'm not a death penalty type of person. I'm not a person who thinks like if you kill someone, you deserve to die yourself.
Right.
Like,
I don't know. I'm
like whatever time he gets for the crime he committed, that is what he should serve.
Right. But also beyond that, I think he needs to get help.
That too.
And we as a community cannot be shunning people with mental issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Apparently this guy was on medication. When he's on medication, people around him said he was lethargic, he was sleepy, he hated it. And so he would be on and off his meds.
Yeah.
You right?
Well, you know, that goes into a bigger conversation of when, like, you could say that a lot of black people are forgotten when it comes to mental health. So they'll say, oh, a white person committed a crime, he has mental issues, he's unstable, or something like that. Or
but let's be honest, in our community, mental health is, first of all, as a black person, black male, we're stigmatized.
Like, we need the most help.
No, but we're stigmatized.
Look, we, as little as we do on this podcast, which is still a lot more than a lot of people do.
Right.
We at the very least have that weekly reminder for people that, how's your week going? How's your mental health? It's such a simple phrase.
Right.
But in all honesty, it means a lot. And look, I know more often than not, we say we're good here. And if we do have any grievances or anything that's happened, we talk about it. But when the mics are off and the cameras are off and we actually are going through shit, we talk about it.
Right.
You know, like, and I mean, like, we can't give you all of our personal life.
No, not at all.
But at the same time, we just want to give you guys that weekly reminder that if you are going through shit, you can talk about it. And look, like, I think of the three of us, I've been the one who's a bit more open about my personal shit, mostly because I've gone to the therapist. I've gone through those things where it's not uncomfortable for me to talk about what I've been through.
Right.
But at the same time, there's still a lot about me you don't know.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's mostly because, like, I do cherish my privacy.
You have to.
You know? But we have these conversations because it's very important to remind people that you need to have these conversations. And in a situation like this, where we're getting information that this person most probably has mental health issues, it makes you look at the situation and think there's probably so many different ways it could have been handled.
Right.
As unfortunate as it is that it's more of a hindsight is 2020.
Right.
But it's to also educate ourselves and remind ourselves of the things we have to look out for when interacting with people. What are they doing? What are the things that we are noticing about them? So we bring it up in this sense, in Nipsey's sense, as a precaution to be like, pay attention.
Right. And one thing the reason why I said this is because I saw a lot of people saying, oh, you know, he's trying to play the crazy card, and he tried, you know, they caught him because he tried to check himself in. From what I've read, from what I've seen on videos from people from that community, they told him to do that, to go to a mental asylum to seek help. And the only reason is because obviously he was labeled as armed and dangerous. Yeah. The last thing they wanted was for him to be shot by the police because of his erratic behavior, right?
Yeah. And they didn't want another person dead.
It wasn't the goal was for him to go there.
And I can't remember who it was whose house he went to, but it was somebody that was known in the community, and that person made sure that like she drove him to the facility to make sure that check yourself in.
Yeah. And so apparently he was waiting because he had no ID. Obviously, this is a person who does have episodes and so forth. He hears voices in his head, apparently, from what I've heard. Yeah. So he had no ID, and someone saw him, recognized him. Obviously, he's on every news bulletin there is.
Yeah, they threw his picture up everywhere.
Right. So,
which is dangerous in itself, but
they called the feds, and that's how they got him.
Yeah.
My thing in regards to when someone has who's unpredictable with their mental health or anything like that, you have to be very mindful and be aware of your surroundings when you're around someone like that, because it's dealing with an unknown variable. They could be good one time, they could be just off the walls the next.
Right.
And I'm not saying because of mental health, you should, whatever he did was bad. He knows he did bad. It's obvious.
I think he does. I mean, I've seen videos of him, and he looks like someone who regret every decision he made.
And like I'm like hypersensitive to this shit because, as both of you know, like one of my nieces is autistic. Like she's on the spectrum. This is also like World Autistic Month, and like when I see situations like this, I sympathize with somebody in that position because, like, my niece isn't one of those people who literally is perfect one minute and completely erratic the other.
Right.
But there are things that will happen where she will get into that, like, kind of coil into herself and hard to break her out of it. And knowing how frustrating it could be to deal with somebody like that, if you're not equipped to deal with someone like that, I can sympathize with him.
Right.
Which, I mean, if you're at home and you're wondering how the hell I could sympathize with a murderer, this is your first time to figure it out.
Right.
When somebody has these type of mental episodes where especially if they're hearing voices, which would most likely be in a schizophrenic or bipolar type of situation, it's not something that is easily controllable. It can be one word that sounds familiar to something that somebody said that literally just sets you off. It could be a smell. And one thing when it comes to humans, of all of our senses, the sense of smell is the one thing that we can relate to a memory that happened 20 years ago. Like, it's such, like, all of our senses become so hypersensitive, and doubly so if you have those mental incapabilities attached to it.
Right.
So when I heard that situation with this guy where he possibly has mental issues, which is why he checked himself in, and then there's a history of him being there, like, it made it so much more frustrating because it's more a matter of, as much as I'm mad and I'm disgusted that Nipsey got killed, what was this guy's state that led him to go that far? Because everybody's asking the question of how could this happen? And something like that is literally a prototypical situation of let's figure out how this could have happened.
Right. But I also think it's important for us to understand, like, you know, a person of his, you know, him growing up, like, you could think about it, you grew up with a group of friends, right? And you've been cool with them all the way through. You make a mistake, you obviously, you know, a lot of people are like that. You know, they make decisions to do things as a group because they're, you know, that's where their confidence come from. Yeah. And then they're left to deal with something that they did on their own, and they're left to deal with it. And I'm not saying snitching is a mistake, but you do something out of whatever fear, whatever it is, you do the crime, you're not built for the time, whatever the case may be, right? The thing is, he's shunned from the whole community, right? Yeah. And so when you put that together with the fact that this person has mental issues, being pushed away, being shunned, being in isolation, it doesn't help. It amplifies these issues. And the thing about it, when you have that type of thing, people become erratic, right? Because I think he did this. I don't even think his intention was to kill Nipsey. It could have I'm not going to say that. Let me take that back. I don't know what his intention was. Yeah. But in whatever he was trying to do, I think attention was what he was trying to get. I don't know what, from who or whatever it is. It could be a possibility. But he went about it the wrong way, and there's no justification to it.
Any number of things.
I think what people have to understand is that when you have people who have mental health conditions or anything like that, you need to approach them in a way of patience. You need to have patience
and understanding.
Is paramount.
Patience, understanding, and you have to understand what people are going through. So I know a lot of people.
Empathy, man.
When you say like someone has autism, that it's not a mental health issue, but I'm saying people who have autism. I've always said, like, people who always shun people who have autism, saying, "Oh, we're not going to hire them for this job. We're not going to do that."
No, it's simply a matter of understanding at that point.
It's not even understanding. I'm like, why are you stopping this person from trying to work? They're gonna they've made it through life doing it a different way. There's multiple ways to do something. There's not just one way to do something.
Exactly.
And that bothers me, especially with people who have autism. Like, you're not hiring them because they have autism. They probably can do it another way, and probably could be more efficient than the way that you do it. And I think what a lot of people, especially in like healthcare professionals and stuff, not a lot of education and patience is given to a lot of people with mental health issues, a lot of people with physical disabilities or mental disabilities or anything like that. Right. And I think that's a disservice to everyone as a whole, because if you had more education, you could understand and you could see the problems quicker and you can react quicker. So, for example, the person Eric Holder who had that issue with Nipsey, maybe there were signs, we don't know.
No, but this is a known fact. There was no sign. It was a known fact that he had these type of situations.
So, but I think with the issue is the education that you said, like, people shunned him, people turned away from him. Instead of, okay, I understand this is what you're going through. Let's see what we can do to help you. But and let's track you and see.
Right. Beyond the education, though, like I was saying earlier, as a black male, in some ways, we get stigmatized negatively. Yeah. And then if you put, mental health issues on top of it, it's even now worse for you. Yeah. Right? And
I was going to say, you're right, because a lot of people say, like, oh, black people or black men are paranoid. It's not that we're paranoid. Is that you not believing what we're saying is making us paranoid.
Well, I mean,
that's black people in general.
That's what it is.
But you think of somebody who gets put, like, think about it. These guys probably grew up in some form of project environment, caged in type of mentality. So it's survival of the fittest. Yeah. And then when you have all this type of trauma, it triggers these things. I think we have to be mindful of how we approach them. we have to stay educated on and how to, govern our environment with, such people in there. And, don't be shy and don't be shunning people to take up help. If you need help, whether you're a man or a woman, you're not lesser than. You're actually greater than most people, because it takes a brave heart to even admit that you have an issue.
Your pride is not
no arguments here, man.
Your pride is not that important when it comes to your well-being. Just drop that shit and get yourself.
Your pride should not. If your pride stunts your growth, it's a liability.
Oh, I agree.
You gotta put your pride aside, and allow yourself to get the help you need. And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we need more support system in our communities, because, like, obviously, like, I know people, growing up, they're super hyperactive. You know what I mean? And I've seen what, like, Ritalin do to people. Like, it's not pretty. You know what I mean? Like, people look like they're dozing off on themselves.
And it turns into a fucking zombie, man.
Right, but I could only imagine how. I think that's weird. Could you imagine if that's you and, like, you're having a episode, or you feel like it's coming on, you got to pop a pill, and then you do this, and then, like, your day is gone, or you have no friends, you can't really be sociable.
Again, that's more into this. Like, people who are hyperactive, I don't think like when they say ADHD or anything like that, I think ADHD is bullshit. I think you need to stimulate people's mind in a certain way that keeps them interested and active in a certain activity. So, for example, when I'm sure you guys seen this in your schools, in elementary and high school growing up, there are people in the special class because they're too hyperactive or anything like that. It's not that they're hyperactive. It's that they get bored in the stuff that they're doing and they want to do more.
Well,
I've noticed that.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
That's a big other conversation.
Right.
To put it shortly, everybody learns differently.
There you go. That's it.
And like, we know this. Like, there's people who learn visually. There's people who learn hands-on. There's people who learn just from hearing. Like, everybody learns differently. So,
and there's more ways
it's mostly like, it's a lazy tactic of you're not learning the way I want you to learn, so you got to go over here. Like, that's essentially what it is, to keep it as layman's terms as possible, without going into that 2-hour conversation.
There's more than one ways to learn to do something.
Exactly.
But all I'm just saying, I think as a community, we have to be a support system for those that need it. Don't make them feel lesser than, because at some point they're gonna react. You know what I mean? It's a normal. Not, I won't say it's normal, but some people don't go as far as, taking up a gun and, doing this. And I have to be fair in my argument by saying, if he could pick up a gun and shoot it, he has some level of rationale going on in his head. Whether it's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anybody could pick up a gun and shoot it and think it's.
Which is why, like, we look at it in a sense of, and as hard as it is to do this, he did the crime.
He has to do the time.
It's simply that. Like, we talk on this podcast, on our social medias all the time about justice being served. We cannot then look at, because of somebody that we respected so highly, somebody that we looked at as literally the shining example of what these kids should look up to, his passing as a reason for us to literally steer away from who we are and the morals we keep and just the alignments that we've always had.
Well, I mean, it's social media time, and like,
we can't, and that's another thing. Like, I've seen people, like, especially when they said, they're keeping Eric Holder in solitary confinement, they're like, yo, just send him out there. And it's like, no, like, if we start saying things like that, if we really feel like he should just be sent out there to be essentially attacked by the wolves, we are no better than Eric Holder.
Oh, I'm of the mindset of, like, if he gets psychologically evaluated and they determine that this dude he's like schizophrenic, has whatever he has, seek the help that you need. Keep him confined, seek the help that you need. However, if they find out that it was just pure bullshit or anything like that, and he just did that because he's just being a hater, and I don't know because I haven't followed it too well.
But look, even if it's bullshit, I'm not a person who thinks the price for death is death.
Oh no, I'm saying
I don't feel like that at all. I've never felt that way.
I don't think,
and I'm not gonna allow Nipsey's death to be the reason I promote that. Like, absolutely not.
Oh, no. What I'm saying
whatever is, if it's a 25-year sentence, then it's a 25-year, 15-year, whatever is the law for what you committed, that's what you should get, because there's no denying that you did this. You know, like, and him having a lawyer is simply because it's not that the system will take advantage of him. Because they can easily just be like, everybody's pissed off, 100 years in prison, that's it for you.
But I mean, we've seen this, I mean, not in this capacity, but this is exactly the scenarios that we see play out.
Yeah.
People get persecuted on social media, and then the justice system just hands out charges, hands out, punishment, because they see that it's in line with what the media is really out there and people are saying. So, I keep my same thing, and I'm saying the same thing. When it comes to justice, it's not how we seek justice for the victim, but also the justice and the given to the accuser or the person who committed this.
It works both ways.
It has to be fair. It can't just be. It works
both ways. As much as decision. It may hurt you to hear this, listeners, justice has to work both ways.
Like I said, my thing is that if they find out whatever he said was bullshit, cool, all right, put him in population. You want to deal like things in the streets, let the streets handle you. I don't say you have to die. I'm not saying you need to be killed. Just the same opportunity that you gave Nipsey in the streets is the same opportunity you should be given while you're locked up. And we'll see what happens. I'm not aiming for death for you, but if you get beat up and you stay in jail, get beat up. If you get stabbed and you stay in jail, get beat up. If you get killed and you're in jail, that's what happens.
Well,
but
I mean,
handle it. But that's if.
I don't want, and like I said, for me, it's more of just complete and total alignment of how I've looked at every situation we've ever talked about here. I don't feel death in any circumstance is the proper answer.
I don't think death is anyway.
And I don't think Nipsey,
any circumstance,
even though this guy killed him, I don't think Nipsey would want death to be the answer in this circumstance, because that's not what he promoted at all.
But I don't go as far as saying this. I don't think that's the way we should carry on Nipsey's legacy.
Exactly.
I think if we really want to make sure Nipsey's legacy live, I think it's on each of us who want that or desire that. If anybody who wants that needs to take up some role in their respected communities and try to replicate. He left us a blueprint that it doesn't take much but commitment and effort to have an impact. And I think that's something we should learn. Let justice deal with this guy. It's not our role. And I've said this for Bill Cosby. I've said this for R. Kelly. I've said it for anybody let justice deal with this. It's not for people to persecute you in social media and let social media determine what your punishment is. I think, either way, no one wins. This is a family that's going to lose their son potentially for...
Dude, I've been feeling so heartbroken for Lauren London for so...
Oh, yeah. The kids,
Lauren London, the whole community.
Didn't Lauren London have like an accident not too long ago or something like that?
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, me neither.
I think
she
had some kind of...
possible. I just know, like, knowing how loving he was to her and to the kids.
Right.
Because... he was never shy about showing his kids and bringing his kids around and just letting, like, essentially giving that knowledge to them, man.
Right.
Like, it's
but even at that, like, most hip hop artists right now glorify, and pardon my French, bitches, hoes. People are fat ass.
It's fucking true. That's
but I'm just saying, in terms of the way I'm using, because it's not a word that I typically use to describe women, but I'm just saying. These are things that they glorify, even in his action. I don't even knew of a relationship he was in other than with Lauren London. His name was, he was never caught out there slipping. He was really a stand-up dude.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is admirable. And I think, he wasn't promoter of drug use like most rappers right now, their content. He was really about hustle and motivate. Like,
honestly, the worst thing you could ever connect to him was talking about the gangbang life.
But yeah,
that's the worst. But we know about it because you're rolling 60s.
Right. But I mean,
that's the worst you can connect to him.
But it's the thing too. Like, I hate when I know people are gonna come out and be like, oh well, you know, he talked about guns and violence and this and that. He's a rapper.
Welcome to LA.
No, but a rapper has always been a hood journalist.
Yeah.
They report to their audience what goes on in their neighborhood and the neighborhoods of their friends and so forth. So if this is what he sees and this what is relatable to him, let him do it. You know what I mean? Like now, like when people talk about Jay-Z, all he talks about is arts and shit. I'm glad, because you know what? If you look at his progression, Reasonable Doubt was all about selling drugs and the other side of
there's got to be
crime.
Growth.
You have to grow.
There's got to be growth.
You know what I mean? And you hear Nipsey talk about it in the most recent album, you know, Victory Lap. Well, not his only album, Victory Lap. And,
because all the rest were mixtapes.
Mixtapes and body of work, which, you know, but, you know, you could hear about him talking and his lingos, you know, sort of change. And you could hear growth in his music and the content that he was producing.
Start with the very first mixtape, or the very first public mixtape with Bullets Ain't Got No Name, Volume 1.
Yeah.
Listen to that. And then listen to Victory Lap. Don't listen to anything in between. Just go from Bullets Ain't Got No Name, Volume 1, and listen to Victory Lap. And tell me if anything outside of the building on community, black business, things of that nature, any of the things outside of that are in Victory Lap. I can tell you right now they're not.
Yeah.
Because the things that he preached as far as building in a community, investing black, investing in the next generation,
growth,
all those things in Bullets Ain't Got No Name Volume 1 are in Victory Lap, but all the negative shit that you could literally pick apart and be like, well, this is why you got in this situation, they're not in Victory Lap.
And even with the parts that are there, you could hear them being more defined in Victory Lap. Yeah. Like you could hear, look, this is a guy where like he's speaking in a general sense. But then in Victory Lap, you're hearing him talk about very things that are intricate. That means that he's learned along the way.
Exactly.
You know, and you know, it's sad. It really breaks my heart because you guys know, like, I love Nipsey. Nipsey was, like, I remember having a conversation with a coworker once, and I was like, yo, bro, you guys wasted 5 G's on bringing down an artist. You guys could have saved up and bring down Nipsey. I heard him say you would come here you would do, you know, shows for $10,000, you know, in my head.
You would do them for cheap or for free.
You know what I mean?
Depending on what your philosophy was.
And I remember I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, a good friend of Jason. I think you know him too, Matthew. I'm not going to call his name. But I was like, yo,
we'll talk after.
If I was to hit like 25 stack and I had that in my bank, I would call him or Ryan Leslie. Those are the two people that I admire the most because they're not doing just like big in the music world.
They're doing
big beyond, you know what I mean? And I was like, those two guys are like the quintessential people I look up to when it comes to hip hop. I mean, I look up to Jay-Z, but the way Jay-Z move, I think Jay-Z is just a special breed in terms of his what he does. But like these guys show integrity in just their way they carry themselves. Jay-Z carries himself in a very likable manner as well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying otherwise, but these are guys who are closer to my age, closer to me being relatable too. You know what I mean? So it breaks my heart to know that like Victory Lap was a great album. I think it would live on forever. But that's all we're gonna get. I'm sure there's gonna be more music. I'm sure.
The amount of music he gave us prior to Victory Lap, we were lucky.
Yeah.
Like we look at Victory Lap, that was his first official
album,
studio album, right? But if I'm not mistaken, there's at least 6 to 7 bodies of work.
Well, yeah, there's Bullets Ain't Got No Name 1, 2,
and 3.
There is Slauson Boys.
Oh yeah,
there's Slauson Boys.
2 Slauson Boys or 3?
2
Slauson Boys. 2 Marathons.
Crenshaw
and
Mailbox Money, and then so it's about
Yeah,
this guy has more bodies of work than some artists that are signed to major labels. You know what I mean? And then, you know, when you think of all, like, even on that, he was collaborating with artists that, you know,
he was everywhere.
Everywhere. Rick Ross was on Marathon on the Weather, you know, that record.
Everywhere,
you have,
man.
you know, Belly worked with him on some of these records. So it's just like, he was not shy of who he was. He embraced himself, and he didn't let his past or where he came from limit to where he was going. And I think if we want to carry on his legacy, is to have that mindset. We can't have excuses as being like, yo, I grew up in the hood, or, you know, I come from a single parent household, or this or that. I've been to jail.
It's not a race,
right?
Man.
Like, put
plain and simple
your money where your mouth is. Obviously, some of us would never reach Nipsey's level, but I do believe that some of us could surpass him, and that's where greatness happens.
Well, look, let's close it out on this. There was only one Nipsey.
And there will only be one Nipsey.
There will only be one Nipsey, but with what he was doing, what he set up,
right,
and what he was trying to create,
and the blueprint,
there will be, at the very least, 100 more Nipseys because of what Nipsey Hussle did.
Right.
So I look at it as painful as this is, as fucked up as it is, what he was able to do within his community, and now that we're noticing it internationally, his philosophy, what he stood for, the foundation that he created, it's going to live on through so many other lives that looked up to him in a way where they saw somebody who was respectable, who was honorable, who stood by his word, and they're not going to let that die.
We can't. This is not even a once-in-a-lifetime type of person. This is like, I mean, as much people want to compare him to Pac and Biggie, these guys never lived as long as Nip, but didn't have the impact Nip had, like in terms of building and growth and expanding outside of music. I think, like, it's crazy.
So
let's cut it, man.
So let me go final thoughts here.
Yeah, let's end it.
What are your Jamali? I'll start with you, Jamali. What are your final thoughts or final word you can say about Nipsey? Like, what do you as a person you think you can bring and add to his legacy, or what influenced you about him that you could bring forward now?
Well, I mean, like I said, don't have limitations. Like, that's something I really learned from him. And everything is a process. You know what I mean? There's a reason why those albums leading up to Victory Laps was a process. You know what I mean? It's steps. You know what I mean? You got to be able to grind and stick to what you're going to do. Come up with a plan. You know, surround yourself with people with the same energy, that have the same desires, and build. You know what I mean? You're not going to have a team of 50 around you. You might only have a team of 3. But if your 3 of you guys put your energy and what you guys stood for behind those values, you're going to go somewhere. I think that, to me, would be the greatest thing I've learned from him. And, I mean, how we could continue to do this is literally give back to our communities in constructive ways, and not just give back. You know, it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be, you know, we all have one thing in common, and that's time. You know what I mean? Us 3 were lucky. We were university educated. We could give back information. You know, we could maybe, you know, put together ideas or reach out with other people like-minded and build. That's all.
All right. And Matt?
I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. It's a reminder that the people that are close to you, people you admire, the people that inspire you, the people that motivate you, remind them, as well as yourself, how much you love them, how much you appreciate them, support them, build with them. Don't just notice what they're doing and give them that simple like, or that simple, yeah, good for you. Like, no, like, use it as a foundation to go forward and to progress and to do something greater than yourself. You know, like, it can be the smallest of things where it's your first donation.
Right.
Or it could be the greatest of things where you set up a foundation.
Right.
With a group of friends where each of you just throw in $100 and that's how you get it going. But it's just this idea of making sure you pay it forward. And that's what Nipsey was all about. It was about paying it forward and making sure that the people that helped him get where he was, he paid it forward to them. And then the people that he knew were coming after him, he set things up for them.
Right.
The STEM facility, the science, technology, engineering, and medicine facility was meant to help the generation after him to get into Silicon Valley.
Right.
You know, Vector 90, helping children learn how to code to get into Silicon Valley. Right. Low-income housing was meant to help not only the next generation, but the generation before him that maybe were struggling, have a place to live, a roof over your head, so you can have an address that you can get a job, get mail sent to you so that you would know if you got the job. Right. Like things like that, all these little things that were building up that he was doing are the things we need to think about, not just in his community, but in all the communities that we have, and making sure that we prop ourselves up. We don't just rely on hoping somebody will do it for us, but we take initiative and do it ourselves. And at the end of the day, remember to tell each other as much as possible. Dude, I've told you and I've told Jason on this podcast and outside of this podcast, I love you both. I appreciate you both.
That's a mutual feeling around
And
here.
Look, I know you guys have your mixed feelings when we argue on here, but understand, like, we can shout at each other. We can look like we want to rip each other's heads off.
And it'll never stop.
It will never stop. But at the end of the day, I can tell you right now without a shadow of a doubt, the three of us love each other. No, the four of us, because Tyler's here as well. He's in the background, but like we love each other. Like genuinely love each other. It's respect and it's love at the end of the day. No matter how heated it can get over a topic.
Nothing is ever, you know what I mean? Nothing is too great for than a conversation.
And at the end of the day,
my bad, bro.
I want to make sure that in holding on to his philosophies, we never forget the fundamental foundation that makes it all work is love. It's love and it's appreciation.
Right.
Always put that forward.
I have one last thing to add.
Yeah, man.
Because I just reflected while you're talking. And I remember, like, when I was younger, we used to go on these camping trips. You know what I mean? And as a counselor, they used to always tell us, leave the where you're camping the same way you met it, or even better. And I feel like that's what our anybody goal should be, is to leave your environment that you were brought up in better than you were brought up in. So it's always better. It's always progressive. Yep. And I think that's why his impact would be for everlasting generation to come, because he made such a mark, and he's done enough to have changed his community for the better, right? And I think that's what everybody's goal should be.
Yeah.
Anything you get yourself involved, leave it better than you got it. That's all.
Right. Any last thoughts, Jason?
From what I've known from Nipsey and what I've seen of him, what I admire from him is his business acumen. He's very positive. I've never heard anything bad said about this person. So,
which is rare, man.
This is the thing. If I've never heard anything bad about you, and I don't even follow you that well, that tells me that you're a stand-up person. Yeah. And my lesson, I guess, I could learn from him and his legacy could add to it is just that, continue to move forward, help the people around with you, and make sure that the people that are with you, whoever that are your boys and stuff, bring them with you and try to build with them instead of just like, all right, here's your thing to go. No, come together, build together, and you're gonna have it's for me, I'm just happy everyone eats. I don't want just myself eat and give you guys some of my leftover. No, I want everyone to eat just as much. And that's the thing, I guess.
Let's compliment each other and not compete with each other, man.
Yeah.
So to close this off, thank you guys once again for listening to another episode of the Don't Be Mad podcast. You can reach us on Instagram and Twitter at Don't Be Mad Pod. You can reach us on Facebook, Don't Be Mad Podcast. We also are on YouTube.
And
Don't be mad.
Check out the new logo too.
We got. We're gonna send out we sent out a couple of them so far on my personal page. Plus, I'll throw it on the Don't Be Mad page. I'll just align all the different colorations throughout the next couple of weeks. You're not gonna get it all at once. Calm your fucking tits.
Also, I think it's important and to be mindful of this. I know we've said it before. I think if there's anybody that hears, who listen to our podcast, that whether they themselves or somebody they know want to reach out, talk.
Oh, yeah.
Feel free
You're more
to
than
do
welcome. Look, I've extended my DMs on Instagram or Twitter, and I've had people hit me up. Like, don't think it's a joke. Like, people have hit me up, and I'm grateful to them, and I've helped them out to Twitter. The most of my personal capacity does. But I've even told them when it gets to a point where I can help you, I will direct you to professional help because I'm not a professional, and I always remind you guys, I am not a professional. I'm just a guy who cares.
Yeah,
so if you feel inclined, like maybe this Nipsey Hussle situation makes you feel so inclined to message me, you are more than welcome to, because look, we go through it together and we help each other. We build each other up. But let's close this out because we got to go. Thank you guys for listening. Like I said, you know how you can reach us. R.I.P. Nipsey Hussle one last time. Thank you for everything you gave us. Thank you for everything you built in your community. Your legacy will live on through all of us. You will not be forgotten.
Yep.
Tell your friends, tell your family, and tell your pets to listen to the Don't Be Mad podcast. We love you all. Peace.
Love is love.
Peace out, people.